Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We are back with the YouTube mom. Pretty much probably the closing of the saga because unfortunately they copped a plea. Two of them. It is crazy. I thought we were going to court, but I think Ruby Franke, I think she decided that she didn't want this to turn into a online circus, which we would have made it into. Believe me on that, because that shit is crazy. But anyway, Ruby Franke took a plea, and very shortly after, we have Jodi Hildebrandt. That's how I'm gonna say her name. Jodi Hildebrandt. Because she moves like a man. I'm playing. We got Jodi Hildebrandt closely following behind her, taking a plea. But anyways, we have a video real quick that kind of just, goes over the whole situation. We have Jodi's niece, I believe it is, who pretty much breaks down, what she experienced and what the kids probably were experiencing with the new information that was given. So if you guys didn't hear, go check out what Ruby Franke pled guilty to. But it's a whole list of charges. It's like, when I tell you the total goes very far, like I'm telling you, like it's a lot of information where this kid was just going through it, like just in the worst conditions imaginable. But anyways, let's go check this out. And let's just see the faces of shame.
This weight just like slowly kind of lifted off my shoulders, and a lot of this subconscious fear that somehow she was going to be able to kind of wiggle her way out of any accountability slowly lifted. Yeah, so I was able to speak to the DA a little bit that evening, and he informed me that the likelihood of her getting maximum sentencing is incredibly high, that she's most likely going to be getting the 60 years.
Wow,
Damn, 60 years. 60 years. That's crazy. And you know what? Good for her, because the shit she was putting those kids through, bro. Nah. I mean, I'm talking tying kids like they're dogs. Like, this shit is insane. You deserve the 60. I'm telling you right now. She deserves the 60.
We were wondering that because, again, 15 years is the max on each charge. And look, the way that we understand it as well, from Utah law, is it really isn't the judge who sets it. It's more like this is what punishment is, and it's up to a board to determine if she'll ever be granted parole. So, I mean, that's our understanding about it.
Yeah, so he also told me that it's about 8 months from now that board will be put together, and that's going to be like the first parole hearing will be in as little as 8 months.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to be focusing, like what the DA said, to be focusing on, like having a written statement of harm and showing up to those hearings. And hopefully that after this first one, that it will be pushed years down the line.
Well, first of all, were you there when she pled guilty, and do you plan to appear at her sentencing?
I was not there. I didn't want to be there, or at least I was pretty torn on whether I wanted to be there or not. I won't be there for her sentencing simply because of just the timing of it. I'll be in Europe. I would have liked to be there for the sentencings. I will be there for the parole hearing, most likely. That's, I think, where a lot of victims, like that's the important time for the victims to come forward and to convince the board that she doesn't deserve any sort of parole.
Damn, she's trying to keep her from getting parole, all of that. The hatred between these two has to be on another level. I'm telling you, even in her demise, her niece is like, nah, I'm going up there to make sure her ass never get out. Parole? You got me fucked up. We not doing parole. You know what I mean? Like, she on another, look at that face. Jodi created a demon. You know what I mean? She don't have no remorse. She's like, nah, this lady needs to go back forever. And you know what's crazy is Ruby threw her under the bus and kind of got away with it, because I'm telling you, Ruby's going to be out in her lifetime, living her life, smiling, and creating YouTube videos on her recovery from being a shitty mom. Meanwhile, Jodi, it's over with. It's over with. I'm telling you, Jodi is mastermind woman. I don't think Jodi's getting out of that thing ever. She's gonna be nice prison mom. She's gonna be running the whole jail as prison mom, and that's pretty much it. Jodi not getting out.
I thought it was really interesting when you
Jodi
said
Hildebrandt.
that it didn't seem genuine. Her reason for pleading guilty. Obviously, from a legal point of view, there's a number of reasons why I think she did it. You had Ruby Franke agreeing to testify against her. Evidence looks really bad, but you don't believe in any way. You don't believe in any way she feels bad about what happened.
Not even a little bit. No, it's so wild because something that she would constantly accuse me of when I was living with her. So when the abuse started getting really bad, people in my church started noticing that I didn't look well and that something was wrong. And they started talking to the bishop or the pastor, the person in charge of our ward, just like their concerns. And the Bishop Bangader, told Jodi these people's names, and then we would go to their home and she would coach me in the car and tell me exactly what I was going to say, and then she would go in with me and I would have to apologize to them for manipulating them into feeling sorry. I believed that Jesus was working through Jodi and that Jodi was saving me. And so it's just darkly ironic that
look at Jodi and her ugly ass over there. Ugly Jodi. This is how Jodi looks like when she wakes up. That's how all the big smile ain't really there. She ain't really glowing that much now, is she? This lady took this little girl, coached her. It's like a movie. Took her into people's houses and coached her in what to say. That is crazy. Crazy. Jodi was really out here moving like the mastermind, feeling like she the big boss out here, like she runs shit. And she really was running shit. She was destroying families and taking names, I promise you. Every family she went into, she was just destroying them, taking the women away. I mean, yo, she's like a house plant. It's crazy.
Watching her in the pews, like at the sentencing, just like looking so sad, and then telling like her attorney coming out and saying something like that, it's just like, wow, oh, you're manipulating all that time you were telling me that that's what I was doing was just a projection, because that's what you would do and are doing. Like, it's like you don't get accused and like convicted of child murder, and then suddenly are like, oh, I just really care about these children's healing. Like, that's not what happens.
Yeah.
You don't go 15 years of having this be a pattern and then suddenly be like, I just really care about these children. That's not possible.
And I wanted to ask you about that, because now that the plea agreements have been entered, these court documents have been filed, and we now know more details about what happened to these kids. I mean, talking about Jodi Hildebrandt, as I mentioned earlier on in the show, she either physically forced or coerced a 9-year-old girl, Eve, to jump into a cactus multiple times. These two children were dehydrated. They weren't given.
She coerced her to jump into a cactus? That sounds like something a mean 13-year-old would do to a 6-year-old. That is insane. She was like, nah, God's going to punish you. You got to jump in that cactus and he'll forgive you. I bet you was some juvenile crazy shit like that. Man, the lady is evil. And Ruby should get 60 years too. You got me fucked up. 60 years for Ruby, because she let that shit happen to her offspring, the one that she made in her womb and pushed out to her vagina. I can't see that. I can't see that making any sense. Lock 2 of them up for 60. 2 of them need to go. This shit is crazy.
Given food, they were made to work outside in the heat. Yeah. Did it seem worse what happened to these kids, or just eerily similar to what you went through?
So a lot of it was similar. There were certain specifics that were not. I went on News Nation to give a statement right after the plea, and I didn't know about the cactus, and they had spoken about it right before they brought me on, and it was horrifying to hear about. Not surprising.
A cactus.
Horrifying, nonetheless. She's one of the most convincing, powerful humans you will ever meet. And when you are in a state of vulnerability, especially as a child, she can convince you of anything. I mean, I worked out in her garden in the middle of the summer, like we didn't live in southern Utah, so it was not as hot, or as dry. But I was working out in her yard all summer, and she used withholding food, withholding water as a way of force.
Like, come here, boy, come here, girl. Do that job for me, and then I'll give you some food. That's how she's treating these kids. That is insane. Positive and negative reinforcement. Like, what is going on? This lady, she needs to go back a decade or two. Like, shit, she would have shined in that century.
I mean, she would, she'd duct tape me.
A decade or two, a century or two. She needs to go back a century or two. She would have fit right in.
And tied me up. But I was also a teenager. There's a very big difference between being 16 and going through something like this and being a 9-year-old. Like, there's just no way of comparing those two things.
It was horrifying. For me, I think it was worse than I even imagined. I mean, talking about just the injury sustained, what these kids went through, not even the physical trauma, the emotional, mental trauma as well. And you've talked about that as well.
Yes. The emotional and spiritual abuse, I mean, it took me, I'm still in therapy every week for it. There's no, and again, it was almost 15 years ago, and I'm still daily, like, I mean, through this experience for months, there's been a tremendous amount of healing on my end, which just goes to show how important accountability is for the victims.
Right.
But no, I mean, this doesn't, the invisibility of harm almost, it makes it even worse because.
And look how sad she looks. She looks distraught. She's just like, oh my God, those poor children. Oh my God. Those children were going through so much, man. You are the cause. This lady was the cause of that woman's marriage to break up, probably for her channel to get removed from YouTube, for her kids to get hurt. Not saying Ruby's completely, again, I think Ruby is insane to let this type of woman just come and overhaul her life. But I'm just saying, like, she is such a mastermind. It's scary. This is the type of person you need to put in jail, and you saved like 4, 5, 6, 7 families down the road, because she would went in those families and tore them the fuck up.
You know, if those kids didn't have those horrifying physical marks on their bodies, would this ever have been intervened?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think about that, whether if Russell never escaped, what would have happened. Look, I know we have to let you go, but I did want to ask you real quickly about something that really struck me and how this all went down is that Ruby Franke pled guilty. She was going to testify against Jodi Hildebrandt, but her lawyers, right before the plea agreement, or before the plea hearing, they released this statement, and I read it in part, and it says, again, initially, Miss Franke believed that Jodi Hildebrandt had the insight to offer a path to continual improvement. Miss Hildebrandt took advantage of this quest and twisted it into something heinous. Over an extended period, Miss Hildebrandt systematically isolated Ruby Franke from her extended family, older children, and her husband, Kevin Franke. This prolonged isolation resulted in Miss Franke being subjected to a distorted sense of morality, shaped by Miss Hildebrandt's influence. What is your reaction?
Okay, I do believe that. She likes to separate the family. That is what Jodi Hildebrandt does. But to the extent to where her reality was distorted, her morality was distorted, okay, sure. But to the point to where you're tying your kids up in the shed, I don't think so, bro. That distortion of morality is on another level.
To Ruby Franke throwing Jodi Hildebrandt under the bus and was going to testify against her.
Yeah, no, it's hearing that Ruby was going to testify against Jodi just shows me that they had a lot more on Jodi. Like, the fact that Jodi got off on only 4 counts of child abuse, which is significant, and in my opinion, nothing compared to what they probably had on her. And as I want to say that Ruby is an adult.
Yes.
Ruby is the mother, you know, she is responsible for her children, and she is responsible for what happens to her children. Full stop. And
exactly.
I fully agree. Like, I can completely understand where he is coming from in that statement. I don't agree with her not having responsibility. She deserves every one of those counts of child abuse.
Yeah.
But Jodi is one of the most manipulative, and it is systematic. And I know that the last time that I was on here, I talked about that, how it was with me. It's like line upon line, precept upon precept conditioning. It's like you're this frog being boiled alive in water so slowly that you don't realize it's happening until it's already happened.
Jesse, before I let you go, one last quick question. You mentioned what the prosecutor said could be a potential sentence for Jodi Hildebrandt, maximum. Did the prosecutor give you any indication about what the potential sentence for Ruby Franke would be?
I didn't ask, honestly.
Right.
Just that's not the connection I have to this case. I
gotcha. Jesse Hildebrandt, again.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I like her metaphors and her analogies too. She's like, yeah, you're just a frog in lukewarm water and it heats up and you don't even know you're getting boiled alive. She's so dramatic, I swear. She's funny though. She cool. I hope she's able to heal and recover from that crazy situation. But I mean, hey, be careful of the people you bring in your life. All the life coaches and the TikTok coaches and all the coaches that say your life is going to be perfect if you just do this. Man, be wary. Be wary, because those motherfuckers will get you in trouble. You'll be in trouble in your life, okay? You'll be having problems. So be careful, my people. But anyways, people, man, we on the marathon, we on the grind. We're just tearing these videos apart. I've been wanting to post 2 of these videos for the longest. So guess what? They out. Go enjoy them. Go watch them. Go consume them. As usual, go check out my Patreon. Go check out my Instagram. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Until the next video, you guys stay inside. You stay safe. Watch your kids. Don't let them do no crazy shit. And I'll see you in the next one. I'm out of here.